Conor McGregor, who has the featherweight interim title, will face Jose Aldo, the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. The only champion we've ever had at 145 pounds.
Who's done what I have done in the space I have done it? Nobody. It's like in the jungle. One king gets old. He starts getting sloppy, he starts stagnating. Then a young gorilla comes up and kills him and takes everything he owns. I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk.
Qualquer que vir querer roubar qualquer coisa minha, eu nunca vou deixar.
When he wakes up and I raise his head for the Vegas crowd, he will know.
The biggest fight in the history of the UFC.
You can't be from where I'm from and not be able to defend yourself, so that was the original reason I got into it, not for titles, not for recognition, not for money. You know, it's not so much about wanting to fight, it's about I have to fight. It's always been like that. You know, I couldn't just not fight. If I don't fight, then I get walked on.
Yeah? All right, let's do this. You forgot the belt. You forgot your belt. You forgot your belt. You forgot your belt.
It's a mental sign. It's a mental sign. That's okay. It's a mental sign.
Awesome. Grab your belt.
Yeah, grab it now.
Face forward.
He hasn't want to hold that belt all trip. He wants it away from him.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you, England. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
You haven't wanted to hold it. Translate that a minute, please. Look, your hands are straight back. Take it away.
Thank you guys very much. We appreciate it.
Like I said before, and I've said many times, it's not the same when you sign to fight me. There's a whole other ball game. It's a completely different pressure bubble you're under.
What can they say now?
You know, there's always something. In the fight business, questions and options. I'm happy that there's both. The division needs me. I don't need the division.
Said if you want that lightweight title fight, if you go up, you could have it.
Sign to fight me, it's a celebration. You ring back home, you ring your wife. Baby, we done it.
Dos Anjos will take on Conor McGregor, moving up from the 145-pound division. Never been done. Nope.
I chose this one because this man across from me has a title. Nothing else to offer me except that gold belt. I believe inside 1 minute I will dust him, I will exit the contest fresh.
I'm gonna make him bleed. No, he gonna pay for all the respect this guy has. I'll send this guy back home and I'm gonna keep my belt.
I am in here doing whatever I want. One single individual in this company is on my level. Gods.
I was in a two-weight world champion, held consecutively. A belt on one shoulder and a belt on the other shoulder.
Until Dos Anjos withdrew from the bout this morning with a foot injury. All right, Dana, the show will go on. So, who is McGregor going to fight?
A lot of guys wanted this fight, but we ended up with Nate Diaz.
It's a
kind of shit I'm talking about, man. We could do that shit tonight.
Big 155er.
That Stockton slap. Wow. There it is again. Boxing by Nate Diaz. Picking Cowboy apart early. Look at this.
I'm apparently going to toy with the young boy.
Bring me my coffee.
Saturday night I will eat his carcass in front of his little gazelle friends, and they can do absolutely nothing.
I'm not from here, but I run here. I run New York. The Irish run New York. Call Floyd. Call Floyd, tell him I'm right here. See what he does. He ain't gonna do shit. He'll do fucking nothing. Shout out the Irish in New York. We built this city. We built this city with our bare fucking hands. And now we're back. Where's that bread? Where's my money? Floyd, where you at? Where you fucking at? I'm from a small place in Dublin, Ireland called Conor, where they throw grenades through your letterbox. They throw grenades through the letterbox at their mother's home and go running off laughing. That's where the fuck I come from. So they come over to this place and be treated by the people and show them love. $17.1 million gate at Madison Square Garden, the highest gate there was. It broke Lennox Lewis on the Holyfield record. Attendance 50, almost 16,000. Broke Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier's record. It's an honour to be a young Irishman from the middle of nowhere, to come over and be treated with love by all you people. I swear, I have nothing but respect for every single person in here that's grinding for what they deserve, that's putting in that work, going against all doubt, and going and getting what's theirs. Nothing but respect. Keep going, keep working. With hard work, with belief, anything is possible. I'm a two-weight world champion in the biggest organization in free fighting, period. There's no limitations where I come from. You can kick, you can knee, you can elbow. It's bare shin, bare bone. Floyd's not ready for this. Much respect to Floyd. He's a solid businessman. What he has been able to do, he is a fucking animal at what he has been able to do. But as far as real fighting, as far as true, pure, unarmed combat, Floyd don't want none of this. I say, he does not want none of this. People don't even ask him. He wants it under boxing rules. He wants a boxing match. He doesn't want to fight. So I want to respect everyone in here. I love every one of you. Give Floyd a shout, tell him I'm coming. Tell him to run around Showtime offices. I want the 100 million cash to fight him on the boxing rules because he's afraid of a real fight. See what I do, I'm not gonna buddies no more. I'm gonna put it back to the DJ. Big respect everybody, let's do that thing. It's only Tuesday. It's Tuesday, I'm not with this motherfucker. It's Tuesday, I'm not running a vote. I love every one of you. You're the ball. Tuesday. Hold up.
We talking about our money, let's go. Here we go. Got it with Sean. We good? Here we go. see this match one time. Floyd versus Conor McGregor. What's up? I got some money in this shit, right? Steve, you got some money, Steve? Oh shit. Who's got some money? We good. You got some money here? Mr. Williams got some money in the fight.
You can't be from where I'm from and not be able to defend yourself. So that was the original reason I got into it. Not for titles, not for recognition, not for money. You know, it's not so much about wanting to fight. It's about I have to fight. It's always been like that. You know, I couldn't just not fight. If I don't fight, then I get walked on.
What's up, Darren? Thank you.
When the $4 billion number came out, the man to the left of you said he was worth $4 billion. So I guess the question is, how much is Conor worth to the UFC, and then Conor, how much are you worth to the UFC?
$4.2 billion. $4.2 billion. That's what I'm worth to this company.
Conor, Eric Dame, MyMMAnews.com. Question for you. Coming off a couple big fights at 170, we know your history at 145, now 155. This move to lightweight. Tell us your thoughts on it.
I'm very happy with the 155-pound weight limit. I feel of all the divisions I've ran around and ran through, 155 I feel will be the one where I will take over the most. So I look forward to that.
Question for Conor. Conor, after your last few fights, I'm just wondering, is Mystic Mac back? And if so, what his prediction for the next fight is?
You know, I feel Eddie.
With Verdum, you'd mentioned that he would be next.
He's going to fight. I mean, you know, we saw what happens with guys like Rashad and other people. When you sit around and wait, you know, who knows what's going to happen. Kane could get hurt again, and then what? Now you've been out 2 years or however long he'll be out. Just makes no sense.
And have you spoken with him about it, or is this the first you had mentioned it?
With him a couple weeks ago, and you know, so I think he understood where we were on that thing that we wanted to do. If we wanted him to fight.
You were so fired up, like with Silva and Mark Hunt's fight. You have like t-shirts and hoodies. What did you think about like his drip vest?
It bummed me out. You know, I was bummed out, and I love that fight so much. Love that fight. I can't remember. Tell me the last time you saw two heavyweights go at it back and forth like that ever. And I mean, it's been cool, man. It's been a long time. So I was bummed out.
These end-of-year fight cards are always so stacked. I mean, you look at the prelims, and any of those fights could belong on the main card of any other pay-per-view. Is there a lot of extra time toward the end of the year where you have to sit down and look and make tough decisions about what goes on that main card?
Yeah, well, we always want to build a card that you know, we always want to build a card that people are excited to see, and you know, we got a lot of guys injured the first half of this year, but we're getting it together. There's a lot of positive things happening already this year. Hopefully I'll announce a lot of stuff on Saturday, trying to get it together so that we can. You know, I say this, I mean, I'm sitting in this chair saying this to you guys every year at the end of every year. Every year we take it to another level. I personally think 2013 was the best year of fights we've ever had in the history of the company. It was unbelievable. And we've got a lot of cool things coming up this next year, going right into 14, that hopefully I can announce on Saturday.
And speaking of those prelims, you know, Uriah Hall had a lot of hype going into The Ultimate Fighter, and then afterwards, you know, you had some questions about his mentality as a fighter. Is there a better status check for that than fighting Chris Lieben?
No, I think it's a great fight for him, and I think it's a great fight for Lieben. Yeah, we'll find out. We'll see on Saturday. You know, I got some text from Uriah saying, I'm glad you said all that stuff about me because it motivated me, and, you know, so we'll see on Saturday. He's a great kid, I hope. It's funny because it's two of the guys that I like a lot, you know, facing each other.
Did you kind of do that on purpose? Because I noticed that you were bringing up Uriah Hall's name without anybody even bringing it up for you. Were you doing that?
I was purposely sticking it to him, no doubt about it.
I mean, if he comes out and just beats Chris, but looks kind of like hesitant, I mean, what do you say to him? What do you do with him?
I don't know. I got to see the fight. I got to see how he fights and what happens, you know? If he's just been so passive in his fights, you know?
How about for Lieben? I mean, obviously, this is kind of a career evaluating type fight. I mean, I know he's one of your favorites, but
Lieben's one of those guys who's you know, again, guys like Anderson Silva and Josh Barnett, and you don't see guys like this that can stay at that level as they continue to get older and older. You know, and Chris Lieben might be at that point where he's, you know, winding up his career. When Chris Lieben has his head right and everything, his life outside the octagon is great. He had a school, he was doing great things, he's been with this girl for a long time who cares about, I mean, everything in his life can be great as long as he stays the right path. So, you know, Chris Lieben's had a great run. He's a guy, you know, imagine season 1 of The Ultimate Fighter without Chris Lieben, you know? Chris Lieben was the guy, you know, when we look back at it now, you don't think about it this way, but when Anderson Silva first came into the UFC, he fought Chris Lieben. That was his first fight. And, you know, now when you look back on it, it's like, oh, he fought Chris Lieben. Chris Lieben was undefeated in the UFC at the time, had a chin of granite, nobody could knock him out. And what Anderson Silva did to him, and Chris Lieben was 100% confident that he was going to beat Anderson Silva that night. And it's funny that we talk about him and they're on this card together, but, you know, Chris Lieben's had a great run one way or another. And he's a guy that I will always respect and be there for in some way, shape, or form.
Both of these fights can easily headline any card. What made you the decision to put them together?
It's the end of the year, and it lined up, and it made sense.
It seems like, you know, in a lot of people's minds, fair or not fair, that Chris Lieben is going to have to beat Anderson Silva twice to get full credit for it once. Do you think that's more Chris Weidman, I'm sorry, not Chris Lieben. I did, yeah. Chris Weidman. Do you think that's more of a testament? Do you think it's Weidman being shortchanged, or do you think that's more of a testament to the legend of Anderson Silva?
You want to hear something crazy? So I was in New Jersey, me and Lorenzo, and Chris Weidman came up to us and said, I want this fight, I'm ready for this fight. He said, I'm going to beat him in the first fight, and then I will give you an immediate rematch because people won't believe it after I do it. Verbatim what he said to us. And that's what he did. You know, it's crazy.
Do you think that's fair to him? Do you think he's been shortchanged, that he hasn't been given enough credit?
When you knock out the greatest fighter of all time and the way that it went down, yeah, that's going to be that way. He's the underdog here too in Vegas, you know? Yeah, and I think it's justified because look at it's funny because I look on the you know, like even the rankings. Anderson Silva's number 3 on the pound for pound list, you know, and all the stuff that happens. Guy's been on the biggest streak ever, he's the greatest ever, and then you lose one fight. And that's the way, you know, the way people deal with you.
What do you see with Misha in her position? It's almost like when you talk to people, she's the lamb being led to slaughter in this fight.
Yeah, I know. I think it's, you know, that's a testament to what people think of Ronda. You know, Ronda is such a beast, but Misha, forget even in her losses, man. I mean, she goes to war. I mean, she can take some shots. She can get into exchanges. She's great on her feet. She's great on the ground. Even in her last fight with Ronda, she got out of Ronda's armbar. You know, then when Ronda got her in the second one, she started cranking it. You know, but Misha's tough, and Misha's a live dog. Not a lamb, a live dog. No, nothing yet. No. There's still a few contracts we're out there working on.
Do you have a ticket sale update for this card?
Yeah, we're so sold out on this fight, it's insane. There's some singles left out there. I think we're at 6.3 million right now. Yeah.
When you talk about the women's division, Kat Zingano, have you heard much about her recovery process, and when is she expected back?
Yeah, she's doing good, and hopefully she stays healthy, and we can get her back by summer.
Would she be an immediate contender right away, or?
She's the number one. Yeah, she's numero uno. When she's healthy, she'll be ready to go.
Also in that division, Sarah McMahon. What's the latest with her?
Yeah, she took a little time off, was dealing with some personal issues, and she'll be back soon too, right after the first of the year.
You were talking about being bummed earlier. That was in reference to the TRT thing, correct?
Does that change your mindset at all? That's twice now you guys have approved, or what you guys didn't approve one. You approved Silva's. The Milwaukee Commission approved.
So I told you, we test the shit out of these guys that are doing TRT. We gave him his last test, right? The week of the fight. He was perfect. He took another shot. Just put him over.
So it's nothing about the process. It was a personal mistake.
Yeah, and what does that extra shot really do for you? What did it really do for you the week of the fight? It destroyed everything. Now you don't get the win money that we were given. We were giving both guys show and win money, and you won the bonus. Now you lost both your win money and your bonus money. Ouch. So all of you guys out there that are on TRT, and it's legal, you want to fuck around and take that shot after you've been tested, there's the consequences. The consequences could not be worse. Now you're on suspension for a year. You lost your win and your bonus money, and I'm sure your sponsors aren't thrilled either.
Well, you had a situation with Rothwell too, and he says that he felt he did it all correctly under the commission, and somehow it happened. I mean, do you get to a point where you're like,
you know, what's going on?
Are you getting any indication from fighters that are on that exemption that whether or not they think it's any help to them at all, that maybe all of this is not worth it?
But here's what it does. Where it really helps you is during your training.
Right.
While you're training, it helps you heal faster and all this other stuff. Taking that extra shot the week of the fight just puts your levels up through the roof and doesn't really give you any extra, you know. If he didn't take that shot, they would have had the same fight probably. It's just not worth the risk. Why risk it? Now you see the consequences.
And do you think that the fighters are coming around to that idea, though, that maybe this just isn't worth it?
If you have a quarter of a brain, it should.
So when you tested him, was he low? Because he was talking about him.
No. He was good.
Based on your feelings on it, is there any kind of inkling to say, all right, just ban it then? Just get rid of it completely? Even with the situations that have come up, you still don't lean towards that?
What the Athletic Commission does. We're always going to go with the Athletic Commission. Listen, do you think it does? Do you think it's great for me that this guy? I told you guys how much I love that fight and how into that fight I was, and it's just like now it ruins it for me. You know, I talked to Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt's like, let me tell you what, brother. I don't care what he was on or what he did. Two guys went in there and did their thing, and you know, he actually defended him and was like, that dude went toe to toe with me, and we put on something that, you know, it was pretty cool. You know, actually Mark Hunt got me in a better mood about it, you know, but still,
you're not legally sporting the shirt again.
The way you know, legally, you know, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Nothing.
So rumor has it that Brock Lesnar's coming for 168. Is he coming for the fight, or is he coming to talk business?
Really? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Honestly.
We good? All right, you guys.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
I posted a photo of Andrew Basiago, who in 1972 went back to see Abraham Lincoln give the Gettysburg Address, and the response was terrible. Almost everyone who gave it a thumbs down, as if to say this didn't happen. Andrew Basiago is an attorney today, practices in the state of Washington. Articulate, cogent, and credible. Not incredible, he is credible. I'm going to read you an article. I did a search. Here is the search I did. Basiago and Gettysburg were the only two words I used. 6,000 web pages. The second link on the Google Advanced Search, top line, meaning each word must appear on the page. The second link, executiveproducer.posterous.com, posted November 13, 2010. This is the article I'm reading. Let's get started. Andrew Basiago talks about Lincoln at Gettysburg. There's a photo of Lincoln. Andrew D. Basiago has emerged with evidence that secret U.S. time travel technologies were used as early as 1971 to acquire first-hand documentary knowledge about September 11, 2001, fully 3 decades before the horrific events of that fateful day. Mr. Basiago, a child participant in DARPA's time travel program, Project Pegasus, has publicly stated how in 1971 he viewed moving images of the attack on the Twin Towers on September 11, 2001, that had been obtained from the future and brought back to the early 1970s. DARPA is the chief research and development arm of the U.S. military. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, created the precursor to the Internet, ARPANET, and has a penchant for trumpeting its advances, such as putting surveillance cameras on the backs of bumblebees and other exotic achievements in military science. Mr. Basiago claims that DARPA's secret technical accomplishments go far beyond what it has publicly acknowledged, and that by 1970 DARPA had achieved teleportation-based time travel, as well as advanced electro-optical means of discerning past and future events via different technologies that provide quantum access. Mr. Basiago has described how, while serving in Project Pegasus, he viewed moving images of 9/11 at the secured U.S. Defense Technical Facility, where they were processed after being retrieved from the future, the Aerojet Corporation facility that once stood at the corner of Bullock Avenue and Leroy Place in Socorro, New Mexico. According to Mr. Basiago's whistleblowing testimony, Donald H. Rumsfeld, the sitting U.S. Secretary of Defense on September 11, 2001, was the defense attaché to Project Pegasus during the early 1970s when Rumsfeld was officially serving as a counselor to President Nixon and member of his Board of Wage and Price Stabilization. In all likelihood, Mr. Rumsfeld, as the defense attaché to Project Pegasus, would have known about and possibly had control over the data about 9/11 derived via quantum access and brought back to the early 70s for analysis by the DARPA Research and Development Program under his administrative authority. Mr. Basiago's eyewitness account that Secretary Rumsfeld and others knew about 9/11 decades in advance because data about it was gathered via DARPA's secret time travel program unlocks several of the more enigmatic facts in the 9/11 literature and may be the key to society's unraveling of the ultimate accountability for the false flag operation that took place on September 11, 2001. We will explore Mr. Basiago's whistleblower eyewitness evidence regarding how secret U.S. government time travel technologies relate to 9/11 in future installments of this series. Corroborative evidence of Andrew Basiago's secret U.S. government time travel. Corroborative documentary evidence of the veracity of Mr. Basiago's time travel expeditions on behalf of the U.S. government exists. This documentary evidence consists of a photograph of Mr. Basiago taken at the scene of the U.S. President Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address on November 19, 1863, after he was teleported to that location in the time-space continuum via DARPA time travel technology. And then there is an audio recording, Coast to Coast AM, November 11, 2010, hour 3. Now, George Noory is talking to Andrew Basiago about Gettysburg, and I want to play that for you because it's interesting. Thank you for listening. Here's the recording.
You're there as a spectral presence in that time and place, but not there entirely physically. And that's what Chronovision was achieving, and a later technology called plasma confinement, which they were using to get me to Gettysburg in 1863.
And let's talk about Gettysburg. We've got this incredible photograph that you gave us. It's up there on the coasttocoastam.com website. Explain that and why Gettysburg. Why'd they send you back there?
Actually, it took place in the spring of 1972. I was taken to a time lab in East Hanover, New Jersey, under the direction of Dr. Sterling Colgate. Dr. Colgate was then serving as the president of New Mexico Tech, the New Mexico School of Science and Technology. He had developed a methodology called plasma confinement, where the time traveler stands in a chamber, a clear lucite chamber, and walks into a cloud of plasma and is essentially wormholed to a past location. In fact, that was the only time that I was involved in actual wormholing, where as I was moving through the quantum plenum, I was moving through a series of arching tunnels that were sort of chaotic as I moved onto my destination. The reason that I was invited to go there was essentially as a reward for performing so well in the project. My father and Dr. Colgate asked me whether I wanted to go see Abraham Lincoln give the Gettysburg Address. They thought it was going to be a great thrill for me to do that. But in fact, I was thinking back to my history education in the program and also my conventional schooling and imagining that 1863 portrait of Abraham Lincoln by Alexander Gardner, where he looks basically like a chimpanzee in a black suit. And I was terrified by the notion of seeing Abraham Lincoln as he might appear during his life. It was sort of a Boo Radley moment in my childhood to even contemplate. So I actually begged off, and Dr. Colgate said, well, Ray, to my father, well, Ray, let's come back in 2 weeks and ask Andy whether he wants to go. So my dad drove me up again, up Ridgedale Avenue, up to the Time Lab in East Hanover, and they asked me the same question. And really, to please my dad, I said, sure, I'd like to go and go see the Gettysburg Address. So a woman named Valerie, I remember her first name, dressed me as a Union bugle boy, and I was invited to enter the plasma confinement chamber. Actually, before that, my dad took a pen or pencil rather, and he had a kind of a mimeograph of an 1863 map of Gettysburg. And he showed me that there was a north-south arterial through the heart of Gettysburg that in the northwest branched off on another road. And they were going to put me down via plasma confinement right on the side of that road so that I could ask a passerby which way Gettysburg was and then walk straight into town, into the very sort of minimal downtown that then existed, where Lincoln was going to be giving the Gettysburg Address on a dais about 3 feet off the ground, right in front of the cemetery there. So I walked inside the chamber. I walked into the cloud of plasma under confinement, and I had this hellacious journey to Gettysburg where actually my hat was ripped off, both of my shoes, and one of my socks. Oh. And I popped into view next to that road northwest of Gettysburg. I could smell ozone. I was feverish. I was then reacting to the rather brisk autumn air, and I realized I only had one sock on. So my training took over, and I sat down, and I pulled off the other sock and threw it into the bushes, because I figured if I'm going to be walking into Gettysburg barefoot, I should be entirely barefoot. So I then began walking without a hat. I didn't have a jacket. I was just dressed in the jersey of a Union bugle boy, no shoes. I met a gaunt teenage soldier, a Union soldier, walking along the side of the road, and I yelled to him, as my father had instructed me, "Hey, friend, which way Gettysburg?" And this individual stopped and squared his shoulders in the direction I was going and pointed that way. You're going in the right direction. So I spent about, I would say, 20 minutes walking past farmhouses and really utterly shivering in the cold autumn air. And I got into downtown Gettysburg, and I thought, I better find some warmer clothing here, because I'm not going to be able to stand seeing Abraham Lincoln give the Gettysburg Address.
And how long are you supposed to be there?
I beg your pardon?
How long are you supposed to be there before they yank you back?
I was expecting to be there only long enough to see the Gettysburg Address. And the paradox of this, it really shows how advanced their time travel technologies were by this time. We're talking 1972. In some of these probes, certainly the chronovisor probes, I'm not certain about plasma confinement, they were actually able to see us where we were located in the quantum hologram. So I was anticipating being there for several hours, but really just long enough to see the Gettysburg Address. So I walked down to downtown Gettysburg, and I went up on some of the wooden sidewalks that were in front of the downtown Gettysburg a storefront.
So, Andy, there you are. You're little, you're shoeless, you're almost coatless, you're freezing, and you're walking into Gettysburg to see President Lincoln's address. What happens?
Well, I walked into downtown Gettysburg, which really didn't even resemble a downtown area. It was just really a cluster of buildings that looked like housing, with some of them with multiple stores occupying some of them. And I walked up onto the wooden sidewalk of one of them and looked into what we would call a millinery shop, which during the Civil War contained things like men's shoes and hats and cravats and walking sticks and so forth, gloves. And as I was doing so, an elderly man gambled on up to the wooden sidewalk. He was about 70 years old, and he was limping severely on one of his legs. And he began yelling at me, boy, what are you doing out here in the cold like this? You're going to catch your grip," which I take in the Civil War era must have meant catch a cold or a flu. And I've identified that man from.
We have grown up in such severe conditions in mountains, therefore it's shown in our spirit. If to compare these 50 minutes which passed in a cage and to compare all this life which passed in mountains, then I consider it's incomparable. Why do you have best fighters in the world? Because of warriors lived in this area in the past. Because it was a road to Europe and to Asia. And our people, their whole life were at war. And it's in our blood. We lived together, 15 brothers, in the same house. My father made us train in the morning and in the evening. It was similar to army life.
March on. Habib, are you weak at escalations? March on. So I'll show you how to break the regime.
We go down, enough rest. In this hall, my first job as a trainer has begun. At that time, I had 4 balls. There was an exceptional room. I had sold 4 balls and begun the repairment of the hall. The first my investment in sport. It was well-fixed good fellows. Work is made unconscious. Now there's hitting. I have created conditions here. It was impossible to dream of it. There were 2 big flanks, water was heated, bathing with a mug. Back that time there was a cold water in stream only. Conditions were of course Spartan. The father constantly created competitions for me. In a house and in the gym and competitions always competed with the strongest. The father specially created with such conditions, so that or they could just break me or could I move further. Tradition which here took me past from my trainer and so remained. It's clapping the hands, it's blow by a stick or a whistle. Each exercise is followed by the word at the end to add. Has added, has added, has added. He knew how many it's necessary to do. It's the first house which Nurmagomedov's family bought after resettlement from Tumadinsky district, the village of Sildi. Here we lived with the father, with mother. Also here my elder brother Abdulmanap married with Fatimatka. Here were born the children, the first son Magomed, after Habib, and the last one the daughter Amina. We lived in this 2-story house. Behind there was a garbage yard and set the task. Every day somebody had to clean it. So it was every day, early in the morning after exercising, they took out 3-4 buckets of garbage. Thus in 1.5 months they cleaned at all territory. 80 meters long and 14 meters wide. Someone presented to our close neighbor, Mr. Saidovich, 2 beers. One has died and the second remained. And Habib constantly played with this beer cup. And the Habib has begun to fight and be pushed with him. And then it has turned to fight automatically itself without noticing. Time well. Well done. Discipline and consistency. This was the main argument of our coaches, so all the training was written down. There were a lot of punishments. I said to the father I don't want to study, he punished. When my father explained to me with the words I didn't understand, with the fist I was understanding immediately. Because if he hadn't punished me, I think that I could have become the serious hooligan, for example. What's up? Enjoy your vacation. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam. Are there no mosquitoes? We almost never call this person, but he comes. Nobody even knows him by his name. Go. Hey, let's make a circle. Let's see. He could always give anybody a punch. As he always says, his record is on the streets better than in UFC and in a professional ring. He constantly put up these fights. He spoke to the elder cousins, bro. When we approach them, don't talk, just punch, we'll fight. From it, he derived some kind of pleasure. Who would like to play? Who wants to play? Who wants adult games? Come on. Goros, so you have nothing to lose in this life, come on. Your hands, your legs, your head, all these are called weapons. Hey, Islam, don't force me to talk to the Damascus steel. It doesn't talk much, it can explain only once. I hold myself many times, but sometimes there is a wish to punch an ugly face, especially when someone nags me. I see how he can punish his younger cousin. I was punished, now I have grown up. Let young people also grow. We have this obedient one there. Habib specifically abuses him, beats even him, specifically beats. Come on, let us show you dance, let's go. Now boxing, show this one. Let lecturing knees to beat knee too. This is my cousin. Hold your hands, good, come on. You cannot train a lot. At us, it is considered as a shame if you take offense at the father or take offense at the elder brother. If you're punished, it means you have deserved it. Better than only wrestling, I always liked MMA, where all its authorized beats, chokes, throws. I spoke to my father and always asked, transfer me to MMA. Transfer me to the fight. He spoke to me too early. You're only 17, 18 years old. He was always saying that it's too early. We've had a lot of injuries, the finger break, the arm break. In this regard, he always had problems. Height 178 centimeters, weight 76 kilograms, two-time world champion in combat sambo. Azerbaijani fighter was then Hamiz Mamedov. At that time I was young, he was already experienced fighter. I just wanted to prove to my father that I was not at the level at which he used to see me. But for parents, we always remain children, and we went to this fight. Probably my father was nervous more than me in the locker room. I felt it. I won the fight I have scheduled, made my opponent to give up. I was very happy. I went to my father and asked, "You doubted?" He laughed. The victory in the battle won Habib Nurmagomedov. Are you proud of your son? No, this is not by religion, not manly. It's not necessary to be proud. If you're given by God some talent or gift, there is no reason to be proud of. 16 fights, I thought much has been proved, however it wasn't. Many critics were there. I signed up in UFC. At that time it was considered impossible in Russia. I signed up and on my fight was ranked Russia's entire level of MMA. I wish that he fought in judo, an Olympic sport, but all the time he was saying, I want to be a fighter in the UFC. When he was 16 years old, it seemed that this is such a comic dream. 3 months to prepare. All these 3 months I was thinking about it. There wasn't 1 second and I was thinking about something else. Even when I slept, I dreamed of how I'm going to fight. Joyce then woke up the next morning. It turned out that it's nothing supernatural. Won? Okay, and what's next? Then won the second fight, won the third fight, and won the fourth. Now such serious emotional splash doesn't cause it in me. Habib, you can call him a pioneer. He was the first person who was subscribed to UFC. After him, UFC started signing other fighters from Russia. 8 UFC fighters. This is the first time we have gathered them at one table applauding. Look at the streets of Dagestan. Every second is with the broken ears. Who are they? Wrestlers. I just come to here to Dagestan. I'm just surprised. Where is in fact the kind of money? I mean, the Republic has not so good life, but the sports halls are perfect. Nowhere in any country in the world you can find it. Here are the best conditions for the martial arts, and the conditions are just as wrestlers. Now all these conditions will automatically move to MMA. My father is considered as the father of MMA in Dagestan because of my father grew up 4 UFC fighters, more than 20 world champions in combat sambo. I think that his merit is really hard to be eclipsed by somebody in future. My favorite game is chess. In the tactical plan, I very often overplay my rivals. You shall leave trash, be ahead of him by 2-3 steps. It's similar to chess. Give a pawn, took a horse. I very often approach cage. I shake it from below, up an angle, directly. It's also one of the methods to win the rivals, but we keep working on it. We even try to purchase the ticket close to rival's corner. We try to listen what is told in a corner by the rival, then it's translated to us. It's necessary to know what they're talking about in corner after the first round. It's very important information. I wasn't even on a single fight of Habib in USA because I got a list of 140 people whose visas were cancelled. My visa was also cancelled for 3 years. Well, even I didn't see my father, I felt 100% he would shout here, that I wouldn't stop, that I constantly kept moving, put pressure. And when I fought in a corner, I felt that my father is watching my fight on TV.
Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial artist.
In the psychological plan, it was very heavy to break the bow. It was the second fight when I was fighting on a strong will. I just kept pushing on him, went on him all the way, constantly attacked him, and won by unanimous decision. It was a very heavy fight. The fear can kill everything. It can bury everything.
in his mixed martial arts career.
This photo is special to us. Whole Brazil was against us. Instead of 4 security guards, he was given additional 6 security guards, and he was conducted to a fight by 10 security guards. You shouted everywhere, "We'll make you eat this t-shirt tonight. We'll make you cook broth from a t-shirt." Brazilian fans were shouting.
Combination going, unable to find his range there, and Nurmagomedov floors him.
And then I knocked him out. There was such a silence. I felt like, where are you guys? Where am I? I felt like we're sitting on a commemoration. I climbed in a cage. All I heard was such a dead silence. I have such principle. I go to fight, the rivals go to the fight too. He's going to beat you, to choke and break you. So I'll direct all the efforts for